gorgeous human beings of the channel. A summit of sisterhood for me, for you, for us. So happy to see you here. This is our third call today. Thank you so much for being here. And we have the gorgeous Jin Ong with us today. And I am so excited for our session because there's so many incredible things that we want to talk about. Her life, it's so interesting how our session that we had and what's coming full circle in time for this call, like inside the channel and where we're at now, come in so beautifully. It's one of those like perfect circles. So I'm excited to bring her forward. Jin, if you are ready, bring yourself forward. Hello.
Hello, I
There
just
we go.
muted myself. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Yeah, as I said, I'm feeling a little bit nervous because I know a lot of people are watching this, but as we drop into conversation, I know it will just flow. So I've just got you on my screen.
That is perfect. I love the pink. You look fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Apparently it's my feng shui colors, and I've got my yurt background here and it's very cream. So,
Oh my gosh, there's so much we need to talk about this year, the whole thing. So first things first, I wanted to ask you because you actually have a doctor title, but you don't use it.
that's correct.
So what is this doctor title? Where did you get it? And also, why don't you use it? I'm very
Yeah,
curious.
because I know we have a few in the channel group that use the doctor title, and my title comes from practicing as an osteopath. So I did that for about 15 years, seeing clients one-to-one in a clinic setting. And over here in Australia and New Zealand, osteopathy is very different to what it is in the States. In the States, you do have to be a medical doctor and then you specialize, but we do graduate with a title of doctor. However, it's really interesting in the osteo world, not many people will use it. And it often comes with well, I'm not a medical doctor. And I just couldn't be
Right.
bothered explaining it. And then sometimes I would get messages from peers saying, you shouldn't do this, you are misleading people. And I would always be very clear that I was not a medical doctor. And just over the evolution of myself and the many different career paths and professions that I've taken on is that I didn't want people to come and work with me for my title necessarily, and just to see me as a person, as another human that's able to support them on their journey.
Okay, well, that is a brilliant answer. Thank you so much for that. So let's talk about the yurt. So we almost had an issue yesterday. This almost was not filmed in the yurt. This almost didn't happen. And for
Yeah.
people who don't understand what a yurt is, it's a circular, like a round habitat. Like explain to us the concept of the yurt.
Well, we've moved on to this amazing property, which I'm sure I'll share the story of. And I have just felt like I wanted to bring people onto this land, and it was really expensive to build a decent size office. And I decided to get a yurt. And there's quite a few people in our town that live in yurts, and I don't have concept for size, so it's actually quite big. So I feel like it's going to be third time lucky. Like behind there is a bit of a mess. Currently, the door is braced with massive wood pieces. There's clamps all around the place, and yeah, this part looks okay. But you know, I had so many amazing things land last week, and really looking forward to this call. And then Friday the 13th just took on a completely new meaning for me.
Oh my
Started off with
gosh.
my horse escaping, and I could see her running past the yurt, and then just one thing after another. And there was a big, we're in a very windy area, but wind started hitting, and I could see the outside from the inside. I'm like, this is not good. We got that fixed. And then at the same time, on reflection, things must have happened for a reason, because Gav, my husband's been working pretty hard on our build, and we usually wouldn't be retreating into this space to sleep. It's meant to be my office, but we're sleeping here temporarily. We usually wouldn't be down here until about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. But my daughter Violet said, Daddy, you're going to finish work early. He's like, all right. So they're playing Monopoly Deal in the yurt at 6 p.m. And then all of a sudden, he hears a roof beam snap. There's 54 roof beams, and it's all held together by a tension system and one cable. And a roof beam dropped, and Violet runs up and says, "Mum, the yurt's falling down." I'm like, "Oh shit." So it's pretty scary seeing the outside from the inside. That got fixed. And then she tells me that, and I come down to the yurt, and Gav is literally being the masculine structure pushing the door, because every gust of wind was pushing it, and then another roof beam would release. And so we had about 4 or 5 of them drop down. And my friend called me. I was like, "I have a bit of an emergency and I think I need your help." And she just said, "Just let it go, get out." And I
Oh,
hung up and I called someone else. We called our neighbor, the yurt guy, our builder who had just gone home for the day, came back 10 minutes later. And yeah, just there's so many metaphors to this. So we got it fixed, we got it braced, and it is going to come down again on Wednesday. It's going to be rebuilt. We've learned lots of lessons, but I see how supported we are, how we called for support, people came, and I'm not going to freaking abandon this ship. Like, this space is amazing. It is so beautiful, and it's going to be here to support people. We need to build a windbreak. We need to build more support on the outside so it can withstand nature's elements here. But gosh, this land is so powerful. It's been speaking to me. And now this yurt is going to be able to support even more within this space. So after doing a lot of release work on it and people and things, I was like, what the hell is the message here? We were all safe. It could have been worse, but only, a couple of days later, things are on the up. There's a rainbow outside, the sun's shining. I shared a few things with you, like good things are just landing already, just 2 days later.
and I feel like that is a big piece, because we're going to be talking about manifestation and all kinds of great stuff during this call, but I feel like that's a big piece of the puzzle. In order to manifest what we want, we've got to be able to handle duality, because if we can only see negativity, or if we get all caught up in the negativity, it's as if it muddies the water, and it's not really possible to really manifest properly with muddy water. And so I'm excited to talk about that a little more. So let's rein back for a minute, and let's start with the full thing. And so when I was asking you before, like, what are some things that you'd like to touch, you said, I want to start with my journey in the channel. So why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I had been introduced to you in 2021, and I was at a little bit of a low point. Like, that I'm very good with my masculine, very good with my structure. And then all of a sudden I'd had all the success, and I've had multiple times of success through my life, which I'm really grateful for. And then all of a sudden I was in this lull and just thinking, gosh, where am I heading? And I took myself off, and I contacted a beautiful friend, Charmaine, and I said, what have you done over this last 6 months? Like, what happened? And she couldn't think. And then she said, "Oh, Melanie and Leia happened." And she introduced me to you. And at that time, it was the Invested Masterclass. And it was so funny. You share about the pineapple season is coming, right? And I was talking to her at 5 a.m. on this holiday. I was waiting for the Pilates studio to open up, and I hadn't invested yet, but I was watching the Invested Masterclass, and I turned to the side. There's an interior design shop there, and there was a pineapple. I was like, all right, I've got to sign up. And after just watching a few days of Invested, I signed up to the Alpha Femme Experience, which was the year-long experience. And I've heard a few of the ladies from the channel already share that a lot of us came into your space around the coach program. And that was incredible, because I was holding masterminds at that point, and I'd had a lot of success. And then all of a sudden, this was one of the most challenging years that I had. It was in 2022. And I was so grateful to have the coach program to support me through that, just to go, oh my gosh, this is not just me. This is just what happens. And you've got to learn to hold it. You've got to learn to navigate it. And, group work is just so much harder than one-to-one, because it happens in front of people. So then the channel I don't know. This channel thing, which is the naked offer, and I know you've spoken about it, so I won't go into it too much. Um, I had FOMO when I missed out on the first 10 spots and was like, I've just got to do this. And on reflection, almost 2 years later, oh, it must be 2 years later now, is
Yeah.
it is one of the best containers I've been part of. And I share this with my friends, I share this with my clients, and a lot of people ask me, what is it like working with Melanie? And, it's not just about you in this group, is it? It's about all of us who have been and who are still here and who are sharing. Um, and I just simply can't answer that. I said, your experience is going to be different to my experience. And, I know you're asking from a place of curiosity, but I simply cannot explain it. And I think this is the power of energetics. It is an experience. So I share that this is the best and the most I've gotten out of something beyond what I ever expected, because I had no expectations. I couldn't, because you didn't share any details about it. And oh my
It's
gosh. So we had the opportunity to have a coaching call with you. And one call, I was like, holy cow, so much is hanging on this. I am going to get the most out of this. And I think you said something along the lines of, what would you ask that could, really change the course of your life? And that's something that I ask my clients as well. And so,
weren't you sitting on your couch with your leg in a cast?
yeah, I had just
Oh my
broken my
God.
ankle end of 2021. I just sold my business to go all in the online space. So I had time on my own. My husband and daughter were away hiking. And then, yeah, I had this broken ankle, which took over a year to heal. I actually don't know if it's healed, but I just went and lived life anyway. Anyway, so then we had our call. I don't know how much more you want me to go on, because I know I can talk.
Well, if you feel it's valuable, you can say as much as you want.
Well, okay. I didn't expect anything out of this group, and I learned so much from the women and what they shared. We really come from all walks of life, all levels of income, all around the world, and we could all relate to one another and just not feel alone. And it was incredible, the vulnerability. So I had my call second after Jenny, and I yabbered on, and I thought I was going to get insight about my business. And you asked me, what do I desire? And I've learned a lot about desire and need from you. And I said, oh, well, I've got everything I need. And I have had a lot of fun spending big money over the last handful of years, and very intentionally. And I've learned a lot from you in that respect. Like, I look around at all the stuff that I've got and remember when and why I bought it. It represents something. And I was like, oh, I just dismissed it. And you were like, no, no, no. And this was the most powerful thing. You said, well, what do you desire? And I said, well, a horse. What else? It's like, a house would be great. And I just remember now that anytime I say something, anytime I share it, I call it the power of social manifestation. It just seemed ridiculous. A horse and a house. We had a house, we were in a rental, and oh my gosh. Okay, so 2 years later, where am I? So 2 months after I bought my first horse, who everyone said, that is not a good horse. That horse is not worth what you paid for. Um, Good luck. Yeah, everyone was just waiting to see what happened, right? She is the best freaking horse ever. She is why we're here where we're at in this beautiful property right now. So 2 months later, I bought this horse. I had a broken ankle still. I was like, stuff it. I'm just going to live my life, because what if I end up having surgery? What if I can never ride again? And actually, a friend of mine who passed away only 2 years prior, we always said we would go horse riding together, and we never did. And so, the beauty that I love about death is that it makes us think about, how are we living life? And I don't want to live with regrets, and I want to have experiences. But 2 years later, just 2 months ago, we moved onto a 14.5 acre property, and I now have 4 horses. I've got one more arriving tomorrow or Wednesday. And all of these horses are manifestation horses. They're the most beautiful colors. They don't make sense why I bought them. But in the last handful of years, a lot of the moves that I've made do not make sense. Everyone's been worried for me. They've told me to slow down, but things in my world happen quickly, and I know when to move with that momentum. And yeah, we've moved from a 12 square meter sleep out into a 30 square meter garage with our beds. And now we're in the yurt. And then we had to move back to the sleep out. Now we're back in the yurt. And eventually we'll move into a hay barn that's getting renovated. And it's just, yeah, amazing. I think that this property has got some pretty powerful energy, and we have to align. We've got to level up, and we've got to be able to match the energy that's on this land, because I feel like big things are coming. I don't know what. And I embrace the challenges that happen on Friday the 13th and all the ones that are yet to come, because I feel like history is repeating itself. I was here 7 years ago, but being here, I just realized that I can manifest from a place of knowing, letting go of the how, the detail. Is just, yeah, amazing to have this level of trust.
This is so good. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is when you're saying people were worried about you, they said slow down. I feel like we end up slowing down on our own anyway. You know, it's like any wild creature can run as fast as it wants, but eventually it'll slow down. Like when we're ready to slow down, we do. There's a day where one thing fuels us, and there's nothing that's going to stop us from being fueled by that. And then one day that if something different fuels us, like you'll slow down on your own time when you've gone as far as you wanted with this one energy, you'll move into a different one, and you might go back one day, but you'll slow down on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably what I've had to learn more, your other advice to me, and I really trusted you as someone who will speak the truth and see what I'm not seeing, is you said you've got the masculine sorted, just lean into the energetics more. And that was a bit puzzling for me. But I had a horse now, and that's what I actually learnt was embodiment for me. You know, it wasn't dancing, it wasn't going to these rituals or having daily practices or doing things. It was go ride my horse, and everything else goes out the window. And I just have fun, the best time. I cannot wipe the smile off my face. I've met amazing friends in the horse riding community, and I have just learnt so much in my business in relation to working with my first horse and these other three that have just landed as well.
Wow. I love that so much. This is amazing. Okay. So another thing I wanted to talk about here was your experience with the duality. Talking about like, is it alignment? Is it resistance? And we talk about duality, like literally just now, Friday the 13th versus 2 days later, what life is like. We think
Mm.
about a foot in a cast and then buying the horse. Like there's so many things that happen in duality. And so tell me what your take is on that.
Oh, so I do believe that we get thrown challenges and experiences and interactions and people because it's the universe testing us. What can we hold? And are you really ready for the success energy? And I see so many people, you know, they have fear of success, they have fear of failure. And as a result of the fear of both, they don't do anything and they stay in this low level of discomfort. And so the work that I do for myself of continually processing my emotions and looking at what are these signs externally? What are the signs internally? Why is my body being affected this way? I listen to them, and by doing that, I create space for more. I create space to be able to attract more success in my life. And yeah, right now I'm sitting here going, something big is going to come out of the other side of this. So I've again had enough evidence over the years, a number of times of just forging ahead and this vision coming to fruition very, very quickly, and being very aware of the crazy challenges that just pop up, and it's like, why? But then being able to lean into it so much quicker. And again, listening to, I think it was Colleen's call, she had a tornado. And then there's quite a few women who have shared, who are showing up despite the challenges that they're faced with just before their call or in life. And it's really beautiful to see. And I can see that they're just so passionate and they're coming from their heart, because if you're not, then those challenges will pull you down and stop you from sharing your gifts.
Mhm. I feel like this is an interesting concept also for all the people that might be listening, to ask themselves though, when is it duality as a test? When is it resistance? Can you tell the difference for yourself, or how do you process it when you're not sure?
Yeah. So good question. That comes back to what I said, right? Is it out of alignment or is it resistance? And so the out of alignment piece, I think it comes back to reassessing what is your vision, what is your desire. And I've just realized how many people don't actually have a desire that they're heading towards, because that desire is going to have a lot of work to do in between. It's going to have some lulls, it's going to have some challenges, and it's going to have some huge wins as well. So for me, I'm pretty clear on my desire, and each time I reach a desire or a goal, my desire gets to evolve. And right now I'm sort of sitting here going, okay, what's the next thing going to be? Because everything from the last 8, 9, 10 years has just come to fruition beyond my dreams. Um, so I connect in with my desire to go, actually, yeah, in this moment, in this challenge, which makes me potentially want to drop everything, what is my desire that I have written down, that I have shared? Oh, okay. This is just part of it. And I do call on my own work, which is processing emotions using the release process. And I go and find out what is the truth behind this experience, this challenge, this story, because I could tell a story, but there's actually a deeper message behind it. So I go and find out those messages from these these seemingly unrelated events in my life, like my horse escaping, this thing happening with the Yurt, electrician stuck a nail in his finger that day and had to go home. So it's like, what is going on? And to be able to look at all the external stuff before it really hits me internally. Is it out of alignment? So again, that's been the journey of getting to understand myself, understand my constitution, understand my true nature, and the ability to listen to my intuition. So I think for me, if I reflect on it, rarely have the challenges been because it's been out of alignment. It's been more out of resistance.
Yeah.
And I've learned, I think this is where most people get stuck, is the solar plexus, that identity, to be able to express yourself to the world, to have the confidence, the self-esteem, and to be able to step into your power. That is incredibly uncomfortable. But for me, and how I got onto this path, was my health was just absolutely shocking. And I tried all the doing and all the masculine things, which worked while I was using them. But the last piece of the puzzle that was incredibly uncomfortable was, I had this intuition and I wasn't expressing it. And it's like, damn it, is that all I have to do? And I did it. I did it back in 2016 and I continue to do it. There's always the next level, the next level, the next evolution of ourselves. And my health has been incredible since.
Now, your profession has also changed a bunch. Can
Yeah.
you see a common thread in each profession, why one led to the other, or does it feel like more of a no, not this, let's try that, no, not this, let's try that, or are they connected? How do you see that in hindsight?
So I initially thought back in the day that I would change career every 10 years, and I now realize how long 10 years is. And it's been more that I was rooted in osteopathy, and that allowed me to evolve every 2 years. And I never took courses from a place of, I feel like I'm not good enough, or that people won't see value in me unless I do this. I always took courses because they were of a personal interest to me. And usually it was because it would help me first. And then from that deep experience that I would have, it would be able to help others. So from osteopathy, I went on to psychosomatic therapy. I then delved into the world of acupuncture, Western medical acupuncture, herbal medicine as well, because I experienced a lot of skin issues. I had cystic acne. I was breaking out in rashes when my body was quite unhealthy. It was just, yeah, it didn't quite reach crisis point, but it was affecting me internally, and I wasn't listening to the signs externally. So I really introduced them into my clinical practice as an osteopath. And then I started dabbling more in what I was seeing in people's bodies. I was feeling them. I was able to hear beyond their physical injuries that they were coming in for as an osteopath. But then what started happening was it was clear that it wasn't just a physical issue that could be fixed with a needle or a crack. They were talking about their relationships or hating their job or, not feeling settled in an environment. And I started to feel more and more restricted with how much I could share with him in a half an hour or an hour slot. And so what then happened? I just kept on doing my thing. I went on to set up my clinic in 2016. So this was 7 years ago. We drained our bank accounts. We moved to Wanaka, which is where Gav and I just knew we had to be. We had a 20-month-old toddler at that time. And we set up our businesses from scratch. And I planted this seed of having 2 clinics and a team. And that all happened within a year and a half. It was absolutely crazy. All the numbers, all the figures that I wished for. Ria shared this, it's almost like be careful what you wish for because it can really come to fruition. So then I became a business owner of a team, and that was a huge learning curve as well. It was a beautiful experience. And then in 2020, when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, it was such a gift for me because everything got taken away. And yes, there was a little bit of hustle going on of like adapting to the change and managing a team. We had all these expenses going out, no income coming in. But that was the fear that drove me to go, shit, I know what I've got to do. And I jumped into the online space and I just put myself out there. It was just like, right, let's see where this goes. And again, in the last handful of years, it's gone to the most amazing places.
So I'm curious, what is somatic healing? What is that exactly? What kind of modality is that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because what I do now is probably quite different to what I learned in that course because everyone's saying, where did you learn this stuff? I'm like, well, that was a 10-day course.
Right.
And psychosomatics is about how your psyche, your mental state, your thoughts manifest in your soma, in your physical body. But it's also so much beyond that for me now. It's not just about the physical body, it's your mental state, it's your behavior, it's your energetic state, all the things that happen around you, all the things that you deflect and attract in your life or magnetize in your life. So that was one of the most pivotal courses. It doesn't exist anymore. So, it was all about the right timing. And what it did for me was I had this intuition of how I could see what was going on in people's bodies, but I didn't trust it. I didn't trust my intuition. And it helped me just realize that there was a structure behind what I was seeing. And then I went and experimented and spoke to clients, took them a little bit deeper. And that's where I guess the masculine structure came about, was practicing, just putting it out there. And the patterns started to emerge. And then once those patterns became a really solid structure, I started teaching it to other people.
That's amazing. So do you have mostly online clients still, or do you do in-person things now? How do you navigate your business?
So since 2020, I've just been completely online. And then in 2021, my energy, like this online business, the Art of Listening to Your Body, was just growing. It was going a little bit ballistic. And I was like, right, I need to sell my clinic before it dies in the ass, like whilst there's still energy in there. And I saw, and again, like everything in my life happens quickly. I sold it within a month. I was deliberating over should I sell for about 18 months. And I use an astrologer for guidance and I talked to my friends. And then all of a sudden it felt really right. And then within 3 days, I had a buyer. And within a month, it was settled and sold. And I wanted to start horse riding, and then I broke my ankle in 2022. We've been over that. So, um, sorry, I've just lost track. What was your question?
Well, you actually answered the whole question, but the next part that I would ask you is, well, the people who come to you now,
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing, because you do look different. I've been thinking that the whole call. Karen says you look different now. I'm thinking of the person that I spoke with. There has been so much that has changed. Like, you seem so different. The feminine is oozing out of you. Like, I've never seen you more beautiful in all my life, and you've always been beautiful, but you are just like radiating. But I'm just wondering, like, when your clients come to you now, what are they coming for? What's the main thing? Have you found that everything you've learned is actually helping you now, or do you feel like you've dropped some of those things and you've kind of moved and changed?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So the original was, do I just see people online? And yes, but since moving to this property, this land, and creating this beautiful yurt space, I've got my treatment table over there.
Oh,
And actually, I love sticking needles in people, and love cracking them, but I'm not just going to treat your sore shoulder. Like, there is another level of release that can happen when you take that armor away. And I use my needles very intentionally, and I say it's like popping those emotional bubbles. Like, you cannot escape a needle and how deep it can go. So I'm pondering whether or not people come in person or not. But there was a real gift when people couldn't see me in person, to help them realize the power of going deeper into their emotions and the stuff that could be avoided by, can you crack me? Can you stick a needle in me? And if I reflect back on my desire, before I knew any of this was possible, this was written probably 9 or 10 years ago, it was to have people to travel from overseas and come and visit me for 2 weeks just for an intensive. But this place is so beautiful, and when you do work with me, you do not often feel that pleasant. You've got to move through a phase of discomfort.
mm,
So, um, the people who come to see me now are generally ones who have been through the conventional world. They have been in the alternative world, and they've been looking for a fix, and they've had to go on that pathway. And often they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars already. And something draws them to me in terms of how I speak about your body is a manifestation of your emotional state. And they recognized how they went into the masculine, the fix it mode, which I can totally understand. But then, like me, it's the emotional component hadn't been addressed. And even though
mhm,
they've worked with people who say emotions are so important, they're like, they haven't really gotten to the root of it. And so my one-to-one clients generally are people who are having or had a cancer experience, autoimmune disease, or infertility. And there's a deep knowing in them that, no, this is not it. And they're still searching. And
mm,
so they're the sort of people that come to me, but also they don't have to be as extreme as having cancer, autoimmune disease, or infertility, because this work that I do has allowed me to just see beyond anyone's condition, beyond the stories they tell. And ultimately, this work is really about go and live your life, go and fulfill and find your soul purpose, go and manifest your dreams, go and attract everything it is you desire in your life, but don't bypass the hard stuff. Don't bypass the mess. Lean into it, because it all has messages. And yeah, I just say, after seeing so many clients in groups and one-to-one, I've seen the patterns with people as well. And, to be honest, when I was doing this work just a few years ago, I would sometimes question, when someone would come to me with cancer and say, I know that I'm not meant to have this and I am meant to heal from this, or that I believe I can go into remission with this autoimmune disease, or this beautiful recent client who lets me share, she had 2 kids, 6 miscarriages, and she's like, this is not it. And the specialists were telling her that she had to go down the IVF pathway. They were telling her that she had to take all this medication. And I'd be like, all right, well, let's let go of the expectations. Let's just trust the process. I know what your desire is, but let's do the work together. And now I just deeply trust and I surrender to the process, not only my own, but just the process and cycles in life, in nature, because my clients have taught me so much of what's possible because people did heal from their cancers that previously didn't budge, their tumors reduced, their autoimmune conditions disappeared, and people got pregnant who were told that they wouldn't be able to. And so there's just so many intricacies behind it, and it's just such an experience. And it's not just focusing on the outcome. And just much like my experience is try and let go of the expectations, surrender to the timing. And things can happen quickly, but we'll let it land when the timing's right.
I love that so much. So there's one thing you wrote to me that really stuck with me, which was that it's not possible or it's very difficult to manifest from an unclean or unclear place. And I'd love to talk about that a little more because what does that mean to you, a clear place, and what does an unclear place look like?
Yeah. So for me, I use the emotional cup analogy. And so the spiel that I often share with people is that your body is a manifestation of your emotional state. And when I say body, it's not just physical, it's mental, it's physical, it is mental, it's behavioral, it's energetic. And that we move through life and we have experiences, we have highs, we have lows, and our body is designed to be able to process the emotion in the moment or very soon after. But there's a couple of reasons why we don't process our emotions. The first one is we don't know how. The second one is that living a busy life in a Western world is that sometimes it feels like it's inconvenient and we'll deal with it later. But emotions don't often come up when we cue them to. And so those are the two reasons we will suppress them and we store them in our body. And different events, different emotions will store in different areas of our body and they will manifest differently. So for some people, there's no physical issues. It might just be mental. It might just be, oh shit, things aren't working in my life around me, my job, my relationships. So everybody has a different constitution and different capacity to what they're able to hold. And this emotional cup starts to fill up. And it can just be the tiniest, most mundane thing that tips that cup over the edge and it spills over. And then you get the undesirable manifestations physically, mentally, behaviorally, energetically, all of the above in some cases. So then I think sometimes I feel that people from a place of pain, they want this other life. And for me, people will look at the life I live now and I'm like, hang on, let me just remind you where I was and what I've been through. So I love to share that insight and that personal journey transparently
Yeah.
because, yes, I have manifested a lot of stuff, but I have had a full emotional cup and it manifested for me physically with terrible cystic acne all over my face, my body, my back. I had what I believe was triggering an autoimmune disease in my body because I had really stiff ankles. I was getting ulcers on my eyes. I was getting sick every 2 weeks, throaty stuff, and I was having rashes. But what I learned was how to read my body, the messages that my body was giving me because it was manifesting these undesirable physical things. And I did that work and I cleaned up the emotional mess. And by emptying out my cup, I created space. I created space for more. And I think that so much of the time we have this full cup and we try and fix it. We try and add things to it. But first, we've got to take things away. We've got to empty it out.
Can you
And
give
that
us
is,
some tips for that? Like what someone who's listening to this right now and who says, "Oh my gosh, this is me. I know it. I feel it. My cup is so full. Oh my gosh, this is me. I know it." How do we start?
yeah. So sometimes for people, it is about the awareness piece. Now, I find that a lot of people talk about how emotions manifest in the body, but not a lot of people will go further into what do you do about it. And that's actually what I'm really passionate about, is facilitating and teaching people, how do you process your emotions? How do you get to the dark rooms, the cobwebs, and sweep them out? How do you get into Pandora's box? But this is where I've also realized that not everyone is ready for the deeper work. And I hope that in some point in their lifetime or their next soul's lifetime that they will be. But for some, it is simply going to be, can I be aware? Can I learn what are the messages that my body, my life, internally and externally is telling me? And maybe that's going to be enough for me to be motivated to clear this out, to actually process my emotions, and then work on my desires and attracting and manifestation. That's not really where I like to work with people, though. And
Okay.
I guess, it's my social media where I share things, and people who are not aware that they have a pain all of a sudden become aware that, oh, there is a pain and there is possibly something I can do about it. I want to work with the people who are ready, who are really ready to dive deep, ready for a level of discomfort, because, this work is about being able to embrace the challenges and go into these past memories. Now, sometimes, and I heard you speaking, I think it was with Colleen, about sometimes there are suppressed memories that our body does protect us from. And I'm not about digging into them and bringing them up to the surface, because I think you've got to trust. You've got to trust in a release process, whatever that might be for you. You've got to trust the positive effects of it before you can dive into the harder stuff. So sometimes it is about starting small, noticing the little changes, and then you can go bigger. And then I believe that as you empty out your emotional cup, as your body starts to feel safer, it'll be like, oh, okay, you now have the capacity to deal with this memory, this trauma. So for me, it starts with a scream, where if people don't know where to start, that they just scream. But this will come with a little bit of a warning, because I have worked with people that just screaming can actually be quite a hard thing for them, and it can trigger panic attacks if your emotional cup is just way too full. So look, most people, if they're not ready for it, they won't do it. But the process I take people through is a verbal dialogue, and it's taking them back to the event, and it is allowing them to speak the words that maybe they weren't able to. Sometimes it's about processing trauma that they're very aware about when they were a baby or when they were in utero, but they wouldn't have had a voice then. So there's some really clear prompts. There's a really clear structure that's landed for me, where they get conversational, and it's not just with people in their lives, it can be with the organs. So I work with a lot of people who have regret for removing parts of their body, thinking this is going to fix it, but then only to find they've got complications or the issue moves elsewhere. So I have them process, and I have them glean the messages from the pain that they're experiencing in their physical body, in their mental state, in their behavior, in the energetic external circumstances and relationships in their life. So I want people to get the message, and rather than me giving them affirmations to follow, I believe the affirmations have got to come from within. And when you hear the pattern on repeat, it's just like, oh my gosh, is it this simple? Is this all I have to do? But that comes through this process of following this dialogue, learning it. And why I love to facilitate it is because when stuff gets hard, we will often find the path of least resistance, which could be staying in a low level of discomfort. So I like to really coach and nudge people like, hey, what is your answer to this? Like, you've just got to answer this. You just got to respond this way, but it's got to come from within.
And what if someone comes to you and they would want to say to you, I have absolutely nothing that happened. I don't have stored emotions. I don't have anything that I can remember. I don't have anything. Do you have a modality that helps them? I don't know if it's hypnosis or anything like that helps them recover things that are lost?
So this is where, well, I asked them, well, is your life good? Is it what you want? Have you got everything that you desire? And there are a lot of people that will also tell me when I ask them about their relationship, oh no, my relationship's good. But then when we actually go into the experience of processing emotions and all the other amazing things that are available when you empty out your emotional cup, when you create that space, they're like, oh my gosh, my relationship is so much more connected. So it's sometimes that there are things that are available beyond what we actually know or what we see around us. Um, but for me, it is taking someone's history. So I think that sometimes that answer of there's nothing wrong with me comes from a bit of a superficial place, because it's like, well, is it safe for me to really tell you what's wrong with me and what I've experienced? Because once upon a time, I'd be like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's all good. But now if I reflect, it's like, I was not fine.
A superficial place, or like a feeling that it wasn't, whatever I went through was not that bad. I've heard other people go through such bad things. I haven't had any of that, so I probably don't have anything.
Exactly. Yeah, that is another reason. And I often speak to this at the start of every one of my groups is, trauma shame is just because someone shares something big, do not make that mean that your thing is anything smaller, because it's a subjective experience. And even though two experiences can seem very similar in the recounting of events, everyone is going to experience it differently. So this is where I trust my process in terms of I will take your history, and I have all these questions that I ask about medical and health history, but I also ask about emotional history and family upbringing and workplace and relationships and the highs and lows in life. And now, having done that so many times and actually spending 3.5, 4 hours with some people to take their history, which is quite big, is I can see the patterns and I can see history repeating itself. I've got history repeating itself in an uncomfortable but good way now for me. But I say it's the same shit, different story. And if we don't hear it from the stuff that happens externally in our life or the physical things that happen to us, our body has a really creative and really clever and intuitive way of finding, well, if you're not going to listen here, I'm going to go knock on this area. So that's why I believe we can't just remove body parts. And sometimes it will have to happen because of a crisis. But once that crisis is alleviated, let's go do the deeper work and find out, why did that body part get into such a crisis mode? Because there are always secondary areas in the body where things can show up.
So what I love about this and how I feel it all ties in full circle with how we met and how the channel happened and why the channel was a yes. There's so much of your work that relies on a person being ready and knowing that the cerebral way of healing, which is like, you're going to give me the exact medical plan before I say yes to anything. You're going to tell me exactly what medication or what I'm going to do before I say yes to anything. You're going to tell me exactly what's going to probably happen to me before I say yes to anything. It's like you've already done all that and you're still where you are. So I'm not going to tell you that because I don't want you to have expectations. I want you to come and I'm going to ask you the questions when I'm asking them to you for the first time. I'm not going to give you an idea of what's going to happen. I'm going to say, when you're ready, come, and then you'll experience what's going to happen. And I feel like because that was available for you to understand that as a viable way of making decisions, something like the channel, which quite frankly didn't make sense to me, even made sense to you. The whole thing was like, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. It makes sense because it's like something's going to happen. And what I knew for a fact, and I think this is important for everyone to know, like if I didn't trust myself, that even without the intuition, I would have gone above and beyond, I would never have offered it. Like if I was the kind of person that would have thought, well, I don't know what I could even offer. What if I don't know what to say? Like if I would have been that kind of person, I don't think I would have done it. I don't think it would have been ethical. But inside of me, I've sold $500,000 coaching packages. So there's no doubt in me that if there's supposed to be an offer at this price point, I'm going to figure out what it's supposed to be. But it was just so odd to sell something that I did not know what it was at all. It felt so interesting for me to be like, why But at the same time, it was so odd, it couldn't even be questioned. And then I got so much more than I could have ever imagined. And the participants were able to access so much more than they could have ever imagined. And this is like part of why I end up being excited about things like invisible offers and things like that, because I love in my world, if I really work at my ethic, my body of work, my expertise, my connection, my care of people, my constant innovation. When I say there's something coming and I'm doing it at this price point and you don't know what it is, there's such an incredible invitation to that. And I'll say, like, when I do invisible offers, a lot of the time, the reason I do that is because it's at a lower price and it helps people know I haven't launched the branding yet. And so, I know what it is, but you don't know what it is. But I know what it is, and I know it's going to be worth so much more, and I'm offering it at this price. The channel wasn't that. The channel was like, I don't know what it is, and you don't know what it is. And I have to have faith that I'm going to deliver something like that's going to be a match for this. And I feel like there's probably going to be more things in my career where I offer invisible offers, but not just so people buy at a lower price, knowing it'll go up when I know what it is, but also to give them the opportunity of what we're talking about today, which is to say yes to something with no expectation. And usually, and this I think is important, is you'll feel the person that's doing it is the right person for you. And so for you, it's not a question of prove yourself so I can say yes to this thing with you. It's like my clients get the results. That's all there is to see. Like if you trust yourself and this is the results that you want, then come be part of the process, come be part of the experience, and it'll be whatever it ends up being for you. But you can't have expectations because I'm not giving you any information. And I feel like those are really what life is about. You wake up in a day, you don't know what's going to happen today. That day ends up being one of your favorite days. The day you've planned perfectly, the first time something goes wrong, your day's ruined. Can we have more things in our lives that we don't know what to expect? Can we say yes to things we don't really know what we're saying yes to, when it feels like we can trust the source where it's coming from? And I feel like what you're offering people right now is to trust themselves with their health, to trust themselves with their healing, to trust themselves, to trust you, to trust the process, which ultimately probably results in a lot more healing than relying on another person to heal them and relying on another person's medicine and relying on another person. Trust versus expectation. The healing is in the trust itself. As soon as they say, I believe I can heal from this, not just I should, medical research says, based on the protocol says, when it's like, I feel it, I trust it, I know it, the healing's already begun. And the more we can trust in that as intuitive people, I think the faster and the easier everything comes into play in our lives.
Absolutely. Just beautifully said, as always, Melanie.
It's like all my thoughts about our conversation coming out here. But I love what you do, and I love the journey that you went on. And I love how you are such a proof of concept of your own work. How when you really do release and you tap into the feminine and you allow yourself to ride free, things come together in the most magnificent way. And even if there is something that isn't exactly what you would want, you trust in the duality and everything comes back eventually. And with a life like that, everything can be restored. The seeing the outside from the inside of your yurt can be restored, and your health can be restored, and your ankle can be restored, and your financial situation can be restored, and your everything can come back to health, everything. If you trust, have faith, and you take aligned action.
Absolutely.
So I've got to say, of all the bios I've received, yours is the one that I was like, when you say to people, I'm going to read the bios at the end, because I don't want you to have an opinion or an expectation. I'm going to read you this, and you're going to be like, this is so not even how is this your bio? Like, you're so interesting. There's so many things. We could not have captured what you are in a bio for the very same reason that I say I can't be captured in a bio. You can't capture energetics in a bio. And so much of what we've been talking about is like the energy body, the outside of what is tangible, the trust and the faith. And so this is what's interesting about this this bio
I
is
was reading mine and I was comparing myself to everyone else's going, oh, mine's quite short.
but the thing is, it's not just that it's short. It's like trying to capture. It's like we're trying to capture wind in a jar. And so you look at it and it looks like there's nothing in it, but it's the most powerful source on earth that's in this jar. But when I read this and I compare it to what we got out of this session, I'm like, but there's no way to quantify energetics. You'll see what I mean. This is the bio we received from Jin. When I was politically correct and cared what people thought, I was an osteopath. When I started stretching into what I believed in, I was a psychosomatic therapist. When I thought, stuff it, and spoke to what I did, I was a cathartic release therapist. Now I don't care what people think, and I know I'm a medical intuitive, and I'm moving towards no label, no title, and letting my story share the wisdom. That is how you capture energetics. But if you didn't hear the whole story, and I would have started with that, you would have said, what? But if we end with it, you say, because we felt wind and we saw you and we saw the wind be captured in the jar. And so when we look in the jar, we know there's wind. But I think that this is the most important thing about you is like referrals, people getting to experience you, not having to define yourself at all, because I know exactly what it feels like to try to compare myself to another person because they explain what they do better than I do. I know that feeling. But once someone's experienced your work, they still can't tell people what it's like. Same as you still can't tell your friends what it was like to work with me. But still, you came through Charmaine, who probably just said, I can't explain it, but you've got to do it. I can't explain it, but you got to do it. And I feel like that's where most of your magic, your clients, your referrals, your people will be from hearing you speak in events like this and hearing from your clients who have had just like the most extraordinary transformations. So I hope you never compare your bio again, because it doesn't matter. What matters is your presence and your gift. And that is quite clear.
Thank you so much. And I knew that this would all just come out in conversation. Thank you for everything. It has been definitely an incredible experience in energetics. And I've listened to what you coached me on to lean more into the energetics, even though I didn't really understand what that meant. I got curious, and I have 4 horses and the most amazing property. And I hope you come to New Zealand one day, because it is freaking incredible here.
It's on my list. I will let you know. I will let you know.
We'll go horse riding.
I would love that. I'd probably die on the horse because I'm allergic, but I'm putting that in my, maybe I'll heal from my allergies before my trip, whenever that is.
Well, I'll just quickly tell you, I used to be highly allergic to horses and dogs, and I no longer have those allergies. I have a dog who's probably going to have puppies, and I've got 4 horses, and they're probably going to have some baby horses or foals. So I have no allergies anymore.
Well, well, okay, and is it through your work you feel like that happened?
Yeah.
Well, I would love to not be allergic.
Short story is your immune system triggers allergic responses, but our immune system is part of our physiology, and it goes out of whack when it's stressed, be it physically, physiologically, or emotionally. And yeah, the root of all my work is look at the emotional part. And so you would have a conversation with your allergies and you would find out, why are they there, and what is it that you need to commit to for them to go away.
Oh my gosh, this would be great. You know, you always think it's hereditary because my dad's allergic and my brother's allergic, I'm allergic, but then maybe it's not. Maybe that's just the way my body processes. Yeah, maybe this is just the way my body stores trauma or whatever, the whatever, like stuck energy, or I don't know. This is very interesting. Okay, I see a trip to Queensland in my future on a horse.
No,
Or not Queensland,
Queensberry.
in Queensmary on a horse. I see it.
Queensberry. Yes. It's all very confusing. Well, you can come to this year. You will be supported. Don't worry, we're going to build the windbreak. We're going to have the structures in place, the masculine structure to support all the feminine flow and all the things beyond your allergies.
That's awesome. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for this incredible session. Thank you for being with us today. I'm so happy your yurt was ready for us so we could have this session in there. I feel like it's so meaningful. And I will see you on the internet and then maybe one day in person.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We're so grateful. Tomorrow we have some more extraordinary speakers. Please join us again tomorrow for another extraordinary day. Today's speakers were extraordinary, such different, beautiful, extraordinary people. Tomorrow, so much more. So thank you for your presence. We love you. You're beautiful. You smell nice. And we shall see you on the internet.